So you want to be bouncing back, and what we have to try to figure out is what is it that we can start to do in order to get ourselves moving forward after we have a setback. Because for so many of us, we go through something in our lives changes, our schedule changes, something that we know it's happening, maybe something that just pops out of the blue, and all of a sudden, what we have to start to do is try to just figure out how am I going to just handle this and everything else going on in my life. And for so many of us, we don't really understand, or we don't really no, we don't have a framework about what is it we can start to do. So today I want to talk about what is it we can start to get ourselves to do in order to move forward. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because I recently just got back from a 3 week, I want to call it a vacation because it wasn't so much a vacation, but I was away for 3 weeks in Israel, and it was a little tough for me to balance everything that I'm trying to do. And there were certain things that I decided to stop doing while I was there. And I realized when I come back now, I have to try to figure out how is that I can get back on track as quickly as possible. And what's interesting is that a lot of the things that I stopped doing, some of them were personal business related, some of them were hobby related, but all things that I've been working really hard to keep doing. And the reason why I stopped doing them is because I know when I first started, when I got myself started in those things that I was doing, I realized that for me to be able to do these things, I'm going to have to be able to have the focus. I'm going to have to be able to set myself up in a certain way. And this trip that I currently went on was a little bit of a different trip where I knew that I was only going to be setting up a certain expectation for myself, and then I wasn't going to be able to hit that expectation. Whether because the jet lag, whether it was going to be because of my schedule was so unknown because I didn't know what I was doing every single day, and it wasn't really on me to try to figure out this schedule for myself. So it wasn't even, I wasn't even in control of that situation, and I realized, you know what? I'm gonna have my kids with me pretty much all day. Like I'm only gonna have maybe a few hours at nighttime to work. What is it that I can start to do to allow myself to become successful? And I realized, you know what? If I could just take a pause for 3 weeks on these specific projects that I'm working on, that is going to be helpful as opposed to me wanting to do everything, wanting to jump in and to have my full day schedule. Because when I'm home, when I'm working, I do have a full day schedule. I'm waking up very early, going to sleep actually also pretty early, but at the same time, like I'm busy from like the time I wake up to the time that I go to sleep. And I realized that if I want to become successful, if I want to be able to start to see these things, then I need to just be realistic. And I think that's one of the first things we need to start to do is when we are on one of these trips, if when we are on a vacation, if something does come up, a kid is sick at home. So instead of being frustrated all day about the fact that my kid is sick at home and therefore I'm not able to do the work that I want to be doing, what is it that I can start to do to just have the proper expectation that, you know what, maybe my work's not going to be as great as it was supposed to be. How is it that I can start to maximize? What are the wins that I can start to feel? And I think that is something that is so powerful when it comes to, what it is that we're looking to do in life, because we have so many things for certain people. They have not even so many things. They have certain things that they want to be doing. And for some reason, things just keep popping up. I was recently speaking to a client of mine, and he was saying he's working on a project. He's working on creating a course. And he was saying how he had specific, it was like a 6 hour time blocked out time where he was going to start recording. And thing after thing after thing just kept coming up, and he wasn't able to have the consistency that he wanted, and he was so frustrated and he was so down. And when I spoke to him, I could tell because the energy that he normally has was not there. And for me, that was something that was really powerful because I was trying to, and it was interesting is he actually said, like, when he was going through that, he was trying to like ask himself, like, what would Bennett tell me right now? What would Bennett want me to do right now? And he ended up doing other things regards to his course, which I thought was really, really valuable for him. And he was bummed out because he wasn't able to do the stuff that he wanted to do in an ideal sense. But I was really proud of him because the fact that he was able to do certain things, he was able to take certain advantage of certain areas of his career, of the project that he's working on. That was something that was really, really beneficial. And what we need to start to ask ourselves is, it's as opposed to beating ourselves up, because a lot of times when we don't have the proper expectation, all that happens is that we just put so much more pressure on ourselves. We want to be able to be 100%, but like it's impossible to be 100%. And what we have to start to try to figure out is, okay, if that's the case, then how can I reset the bar to something that's going to be really expected of me and something that I can actually hit, not to just throw it all away, but to say, you know what, I can do this thing. And then all of a sudden you'll be able to get that energy to be able to move forward. Because if you end up setting your standards too high and you end up not hitting them, and this is based on somebody who throughout my 20s set ridiculous goals, and Honestly, I don't think the goals were as ridiculous. It was just the way that I was trying to get to those goals were ridiculous. And therefore I had certain expectations over and over and over and over again of just not hitting them. And that was so frustrating for me. And I think the hardest part for me personally was that I just kept getting pulled back. I kept getting hit in the face. I kept getting rejected. And that was the thing that was so difficult for me. So I understood that, hey, you know what? I have to set these expectations, but also set up the schedule and recognize what is it I can start to do. And if we know that things are going to be happening in our lives, if we know that certain things throughout our days are going to be, going to be thrown in there, but we have to start to realize, okay, what is it that I can start to do? How is it that I can start to change a little bit? How is it that I can get myself in the right place to make sure that I can start to do the things that I want to be doing? Because that's going to be the thing that's going to help us succeed. Because I can tell you, and I'm sure you've been there before, when you fail, it doesn't feel great. And a lot of times we have to get the feedback, but it's a lot of times that we're just setting the wrong expectation. So when things are going on, if you are coming back from a trip or a vacation, whatever it might be, what are those expectations that you have for yourself? How can we be realistic with it? And that's going to be something that we need to start to do. The second thing we need to try to figure out is for ourselves when we jump back into it. So let's say and we come back from this trip, the vacation, our kids are going back to school, and now we're okay. And now I have this like breath of fresh air. What am I supposed to be doing now? And I think so many times people and don't necessarily do this, even when they're not going through something. But I think just in general, people don't know what the next steps are. And I know the first thing for me personally, here it is. I have a piece of paper, and I literally just made a list of things. Okay, these are the things that need to get done, and this is going to be the priority of these things that need to get done. Because I know for me, like I come back and like there's like a million things on my plate that I need to figure out. So many things I need to organize, get myself into the right mindset and frame in terms of like, hey, what do I even have to do? Like everything's been in my mind, circling and going around and around and around, getting so overstressed and overwhelmed about everything that I need to be doing. So what is it that I can start to do right now? And the first thing for me was just let me just list everything out. It's one of the things that I speak about when people do get stressed out is that when somebody gets stressed, really what's happening is that they're constantly thinking about all the different possibilities or all the things that are on their mind. They're thinking about them over and over and over and over again. And the problem with that is that it starts to just drain us. It sucks the energy out of us. And what we need to start to do is to recognize, hey, you know what? How can I just get it on paper? And doing something called an energy audit, which is something that I've heard from a coach, Rich Litvin, it's been something that really powerful for me. And even just taking a piece of paper and maybe on your phone, whatever it might be, just list those things that you need to be doing. List those things that are stressing you out. List those things that are whatever's on your mind. Because once you're able to do that, then all of a sudden you're going to see, okay, like it's real. It's something like it's tangible. The next thing you could even do to take it to the next level is to give like a time zone, the time frame when you're going to be doing those things, whether it's a specific date or whether it's a certain time throughout your day that you're going to be doing it. Because then you can start to really like tangibly feel all those things. And then you could say, oh, you know what, this thing is going to be done by X and X time. And that is something that is so powerful when it comes to, what is that we're looking to do. The next thing we need to do is we need to set ourselves up properly. And that means, once we get onto our schedules, one of the things that, I, one of the things that I'm a pretty extreme dude. So like, I like to say, okay, I'm going to do this. And then all of a sudden, like, I'll do it. You know what I'm saying? For like, like I'm not going to eat like, I'm not going to have like sugar in my coffee for now on. And after like being a guy who like would put like 5 tablespoons of sugar in like a small coffee, right? I'm not going to do any sugar. Like I go cold turkey. And sometimes it worked and a lot of times it backfired. And with the sugar, by the way, it has not backfired yet, which has really been awesome. It's been a couple of years now, so I'm really grateful for that. But one of the things that I've noticed about myself is that when I set up a new goal for myself, and this is something that I spoke about, when I set a new goal for myself, one of the things that I do is I actually mentally prepare myself before I even do the goal. Okay, so if I know that I'm going to be doing a certain something, if I know I want to be doing something, what I'm going to start to do is I'm going to start to prepare myself mentally in order to be able to do that thing. So therefore, I want to be able to get myself sort of psyched up about it. So for example, I came back from my trip on a Tuesday night. And I know that there's certain things that I need to do in terms of like just waking up early in the morning and getting my routine back in shape. And I could start getting up Wednesday morning, but I also know that I'm going to be jet lagged. I'm going to be extremely tired and I'm going to need to get my sleep. So I'm going to need to get sort of my back on track before I can even jump into that. So what I'm doing is I'm preparing myself and I'm playing the safe game. I'm going to say by Sunday morning, I want to be back on my schedule. What is it that I need to do in order to get myself back on my schedule? How can I set myself up properly to say, hey, you know what? let me do it by Sunday. And guess what? By Friday, if I'm able to do it, then I'll do it. That's amazing. But I'm not putting that pressure on me in order to say, like, I need to do it right away. I need to go cold turkey on jumping right back in. Because for so many of us, we get so, we get so antsy, we jump the other way, and then all of a sudden we don't set ourselves up. And then we look back 2 weeks and we're like, we're still not doing our schedule. But I know if I can say to myself, hey, you know what? I can start to get myself set up. I can prepare myself in this specific way. Then all of a sudden, and then I have this ability to jump back into it. So right now I'm preparing myself mentally. Okay, Sunday morning is the day. Sunday morning I'm going to wake up early, and that's when I'm going to get back into my whole morning routine. And that is something that could be, I know for me has been really, really powerful and positive. And I think it could be something that could be really helpful for you as well. And the last idea is something that people might think is like a little too fluffy, but I was one time speaking to a client, and the way he was talking, I can tell that like he wasn't going to be able to do anything because he was just talking so negatively and so down. And I know for me personally, when I get into these moods where I'm just like not the most positive person, which happens a bunch, what I realize is that, if I want to really be able to take advantage of certain things in my life, when I'm more optimistic, when I'm happier, not even happier, but when I'm just focused on the possibilities of the upside, that allows me to be able to take certain actions. That allows me to become more energetic. That allows me to be able to move forward in certain areas of my life, as opposed to being down and negative and pessimistic, where during those times, I know personally, those days are not as productive. And I realized that if we want to be able to be successful in our own terms, whatever success means for us, but we have to start to do is try to figure out how is it that I can get myself to be able to talk in the appropriate way. And it doesn't mean we need to fake ourselves out, but how can I get myself back in the zone? So whether that's working out, going on a walk, it's speaking to certain people, listening to music, whatever it might be, but understanding, hey, when I'm in this zone, when I'm in a better zone, then like things around me are going to be better. My input is going to be better, which is going to then affect my output. I'm going to be able to jump back into certain things. And this goes back into, setting the proper expectation, because when we do set improper expectations, all that happens is that we get more negative. We start to feel this cloud of like thickness above us because we're not living up to that expectation. Our self-esteem is down. And what we have to start to do is to say, no, let me try to lift that up. How can I take the action to get me back into that zone? And that is something that can be really, really helpful when it comes to just being able to move forward. And if we can start to try to figure out how we work, how is it that I can get myself out of it? Doesn't mean you need to be, Mr. Positive man or woman, right? But what it does mean is that like you have to be careful about how it is that you say those things to yourself. And I know for me, whenever I say certain things, whenever I know there are these like paths that I can go down that are just gonna like lead me to nowhere good. And that's something that we need to start to figure out for ourselves. And by doing that, then we have this ability to be able to move a little bit quicker, to be able to bounce back just a little bit quicker. Because for so many of us, we want to be able to go back in, we want to be able to take advantage of certain things. And the fact that we're not able to really hurts us. Because it hurts us, we don't allow ourselves to get back into it quicker, and it elongates it so much longer than it really has to be.